Christopher Nolan fan, and I love his movies. And this was Oppenheimer was my first theatrical experience of a Christopher Nolan movie, and I could have gotten it near my home. There are a lot of theaters, but there's like the normal ones. So I went way away, like really far away from my home to watch this movie on the larger screen. So I can tell you, I was really excited and had huge expectations from this movie. And for the most part, it delivered, but there are certain aspects that bothered me, and I just feel like it may not have been worth it. So I just want to talk of those. So the first one is their priorities. This movie's priority. So of course it's an autobiography of Oppenheimer, but the problem comes when largely the movie is focused on the political side of Oppenheimer. Like his political life is consum whatever it is. Communism sorry communism stuff, like his communism ideologies, and this movie focuses way too much on the politics. Like it's a 3 hour movie, and how much like they utilize, like I'm sure 2 hours to like at least half of the movie was spent on this political stuff, and it may be more, but it just felt sad because this movie in another way was the autobiography of a scientist, and I wanted to learn more of the scientist more often, because I just don't want him just heading everything, but rather see him explain stuff, the basics of working of nuclear bombs, because it's pretty interesting. Their working is the way they explode and release all those particles. It's pretty interesting. I mean, at a basic level, at the advanced level, it's really complicated, but at least at the basic level, I want to see some explanation, some scientific stuff. There was stuff like him imagining stuff, imagining all that bombs and that, but I just wanted more, and it just wasn't right. Like, if you're watching a story of a scientist, you want to see the science behind the mind, like scientific brain of the person, how they how they studied stuff, or like what they discovered, what their research did. Like, there are scientists out there, there are scientists who divorced their wife and married their cousins, but I don't think so. It's important to us. It's important to us to know the research. I mean, it's we can look up on their personal life, but the research and scientific life is what matters the most. And this movie focused too much on political life, and it's not like it's wrong. I think there was nothing wrong with it, but they just took it just took up too much screen time, that it overshadowed the scientific stuff. That was my problem. And I just his social life and personal life was really boring. Like his all the female characters in the movie are one dimensional. And there was this one scene where his wife stands up for him, and it was like the only scene I can appreciate him a little bit for. But yeah, it feels a lot like actors are wasted. Actors are wasted in this movie. She was, I think. But that and like that's my issue. The other issue is the scene of the bomb. I'm sorry, the nuke scene. I was trying to hype it up. So the Trinity test was the best part of the movie. It was, it's great. It's like it was a really great scene. Like that all was just great the whole time. It was so interesting. And before they were pressing the button, I was on the edge of my seat. I was terrified. And then the button was pressed. We see the explosion, and it was boring. Like, I think I'm one of those people who was partially excited because this movie was going to have one of the coolest, you know, visual effects of all time. One of the coolest visual effects. Not like completely excited, but partially, because I was expecting to be blown away by the visuals of this movie. But sadly, the bomb scene was bad. Like, it's shit, in my opinion, because it was hugely hyped up. Like Christopher Nolan said, it's practical, and so I was like, oh my god, it's going to be great. Then if you watch the trailer, it's like half the shots are like hyping up the bomb scene. Then there's the internet, which I think I made a mistake by going on internet. It's just how people like hyping it up in so many ways. Like they're saying this using IMAX technology, IMAX cameras, IMAX stuff, black and white IMAX. I honestly thought it's going to be something really cool, but I don't see the difference. I just don't. I don't see any difference in this movie. But that was just so underwhelming. I think Christopher Nolan should have taken the visuals route. I think he was just given too much freedom with that scene. Like, I just wanted to be blown away. I was expecting to be blown away by that scene, and maybe like the best visual scene of the movie. It's just sad. Like, there are not much visual contenders for this year but yeah, like I'm sure a lot of people were expecting the bomb scene to be pretty good, and of course it's a life opener, but not the bomb. But see, now it matters why they did not show any of Oppenheimer. I'm sorry, any of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So only time we're able to see the effects of nuke was that scene, and that scene was bad. So we'll never know how truly terrifying a nuke is because it's always associated with the end of world. In reality, it's not. A nuke can destroy a lot of stuff, but it's not always about the end of the world. It's about small things like people has a. If you take a superhero movie and the world's about to end, I'm sure none of you guys will care. But if one character or one beloved character is about to die, the whole fucking theater cares because that's the thing. We don't care about huge numbers. Huge numbers are just small people. Like one person is an emotion, and all the other huge number of all the population is statistic. We don't care about those. So it's that way. And I think sure people were excited, like were terrified, and that feeling of dread after movie. To an extent, even I liked the ending. It was great, but as a whole, I wanted to be horrified. I wanted to get nightmares of nuclear bomb and stuff. But this movie did not give me any of it. I'm not saying that they should have shown Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I think it would have been too much because what happened there was really bad, and I don't think so any human can actually survive that, like especially stuff. But still, it was an R-rated film, and again, it was R-rated for the wrong reasons. Like at one point, you would think that this movie is R-rated because it has a lot of horror stuff, but then you find out why this movie is R-rated, and you go to IMAX, and you see this movie R-rated, right? You're expecting a lot of horror in IMAX. That sounds cool, but then they show that scene where he's doing that stuff, and then you realize that this movie is R-rated so that he's. I'm saying something. I think I'm going off the route. Just the point is, this movie did not utilize the working effectively utilize the nuclear bomb stuff like how much I wanted it to utilize. I mean, I think if I rewatch it, like many people pointed it out. I'm not the first one to point this out. I just watched the train test scene because that's the best part, and the ending because again it's really cool. The ending is cool. It gives a dread message and it's applicable to real world. So that's all. I hope you understood this video. I know I'm really obnoxious or something.